Okay, time for another video. This one is over midpoints. So a midpoint is, as you may guess, it is the midpoint of a segment is the point that divides the segment into two congruent segments. So let's take segment AC. Starts at A, ends at C. You'll notice a couple things here. These lines indicate something very important. It means that this distance right here is equal to this distance, or this segment AB is congruent to this segment BC. That's what these two lines indicate. And because this distance is equal to this distance, B is considered a midpoint. B is the midpoint of AC. Other things that you might see are things known as bisectors. Bisectors are going to be some other geometric something that is cutting something in half. So a line, a segment, a ray, if they intersect at a midpoint, so this line L intersects at B, B is the midpoint, then it can also be known as a segment bisector. So this line bisects AC and creates these two congruent segments on either side, or these equal distance on either side. So again, just some vocab here. Midpoint, that's the middle of a segment. Whenever something cuts something in half, it's said to bisect it. And, if it were to create two equal segments, that would be a segment bisector. So you have all this vocabulary that's kind of being thrown at you right now, all indicating that one side of a line is equal to the other side of the line. Let's talk about finding midpoints, because that's really going to be the kind of math thing that we're going to be doing in this section. Finding a midpoint, we do have a formula for that. Imagine this is an XY point. So if you want to find, you're on a coordinate plane, if you want to find the X value of your midpoint, you're going to find basically the average of your two X values, right? If you have two values and you add them together and then divide by 2, you're going to find the average of those two. So let's say, and that would make sense, right? If I were going from, let's say, point 3 to 0.9, and I wanted to find the middle of that, if I did 9 plus 3 and divided it by 2, that's going to find me that average point. That's going to find me the one that is right in the middle, which in this case happens to be 12 divided by 2, which is 6. And sure enough, 6 is perfectly in the middle of 3 and 9. So that's what this does. This takes these 2 points, these two X values, finds the average of them, takes the two Y values, finds the average of them, and gives you an ordered pair that represents the middle, the exact midpoint between two given coordinates. So let's say that we have the coordinates 7, -5, and 9, -1. We're going to find the midpoint of the segment given by these two that starts and ends at these 2 points. So let's call this x1 and y1. Let's call this x2 and y2, and let's just plug into the formula. The midpoint is going to be 7 plus 9 over 2, and -5, comma, -5 plus -1 over 2. All right, 7 plus 9 is 16. 16 over 2, which of course is 8. And then -5 plus -1 is -6. -6 over 2 is -3. And sure enough, the midpoint between these 2 points on a coordinate plane and the midpoint of the segment GH is 8, -3. Now, you may be asked to not find the midpoint, but find one of the endpoints. Find one of the ends of a segment, one of the coordinates of the endpoints of a segment when given the midpoint, and say one of the other endpoints. So right here, what we're trying to do is we have a segment AB, and you are given B, which is at 3, -5. You are given the midpoint, which is at -1, 2. And your task is to figure out, okay, where's A? Where does this point have to be for -1, 2 to be the midpoint between A and 3, -5? And this is where we get a little bit of algebra. We are given, for example, that, let's just kind of write some stuff out here. So we're going to find x, and we are going to find y. Our x value of this ordered pair is going to be found with x1 plus y plus x2 over 2, and our y value is going to be found with y1 plus y2 over 2. We have some of these. We are missing others, right? We are looking for a, which we could call x1, y1. That is our unknown. So I do know that my midpoint has an x value of -1. I don't know what x1 is, but I know that x2 is 3, right? This is x2 and y2 over here. So I've got x1 plus 3, and if I divide that by 2, that should end up equaling -1. Of course, at this point, I could multiply both sides by 2. Just do a little bit of algebra here to end up solving this. So that's going to give me -2 equals x1 plus 3. Subtract 3 from both sides, and we get our x value of that point is going to be -5 is equal to x1. So that's how you find your x value, and you're going to do the exact same thing to find the y value. We know that the y value of our midpoint is 2. We do not know what y1 is, but we know that y2 is -5, and y1 plus y2, which is -5, divided by 2, is going to end up equaling the y value of the midpoint, which is 2. So let's do, again, a little bit of math. Let's throw a line in here so we kind of keep things organized. Let's multiply both sides by 2. 2's cancel out over here. We have 4 equals y1 plus a -5. And you could subtract a -5. You could add 5. What we're trying to do here is cancel out that -5. So I'm going to, if I have a -5, I can cancel out that -5 by adding 5. And that will get us to the y value of that missing coordinate. 4 plus 5 is 9. And there it is. So our final answer here, the midpoint, or that point A that we were unsure about, is going to be at -5, 9. All right, that's pretty much it for the types of problems that you may be asked about in this midpoint section. I hope this video was helpful. I'll see you in class.